This year, as gigs are canceled
and stages go dark,
it can feel hopeless.
Don't let the lights go out on you or your bandmates.
Your union brothers and sisters are here for you.
The AFM is fighting to get members help with unemployment assistance.
We're working in D.C. to help protect working people.
And we're standing up to get musicians back performing safely.
And most importantly, we want you to be healthy both physically and mentally.
Please reach out and check in on your friends.
It's okay to ask if they're okay, and it's okay to not be okay.
We will return again when the curtains call.
Until then, stay safe,
stay healthy,
stay positive.
Find more resources and assistance
at
afm.org/help.
And remember,
together we are stronger.
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 Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever and wherever you're watching us from. Hey, welcome to another episode of Conical Supremacy. Everybody out there, happy Easters. we're really glad to have you today. We got a great show in store for you, but first, let me take a second to introduce my co-host, not my guest, my co-host, Mr. Doug Tornquist. What's going on, Doug?
Hi, John. How are you?
Blah 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 blah.
And how was your week?
Actually, it was manual labor week for me. I had to. Well, first of all, I had to empty out my mom's storage unit and move it to another storage unit. So got that done, and the U-Haul truck that we rented. Luckily, I got everything into the truck, but she's going to be 80 here, and she's thinking that she's like a lot younger. And it was 85 degrees that day, and she's like, "I got to sit down." Well, of course you have to sit down. Go sit down. I'll take care of this. It's just one of those things. Spent a lot of time. Went over and helped a friend redo all their sprinklers in the backyard. Did that kind of thing. I think the upside this week though was I got a box from Bob Tucci, and inside of it was a new mouthpiece. And I hate to say it, I think I'm in love.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no,
It's so.
I think it's one of those things, Doug. We've talked about this before, and it's the same mouthpiece that I've been using, but another vintage one. But you know what happens in the runs, right? When you're running mouthpieces through the lathe, and how do you want one at the front of the run, or do you want one at the back of the run? Which one's good for you? Because the blade gets, and we've talked about mouthpieces before too. You also, how was your week, by the way?
Fine. Couple of gigs, some teaching, cleaning up my, the detritus of the last, change of seasons. So it's time to, kind of do a little spring cleaning, get the piles of music off the floor. Think ahead. No, it's fine. Had an Easter gig today, so
I was going to say you had an Easter,
rite of passage.
Believe it or not, an Easter gig today. How lucky are you?
There were a few of my colleagues were out there playing last night or today. Mine was outdoors, of course, to comply with the protocols, but it was sure nice to play some C major chords today.
Yeah, dude, tell me about it. Hey, big news too. I don't know if you saw this on the news this morning, but I saw this. It looks like indoor concerts and performances are going to be cool starting on April 15th with reduced capacity.
Yeah.
So go figure, right?
Okay.
I'm actually really, really kind of excited that maybe this is the turning point that we've been talking about.
I sure hope so. That would be great.
Well, hey, man, our show today is all things brass band. And I really got to thank you for doing the heavy lifting on today's show. Both of us have had the opportunity to play this in these groups. This was for me years and years ago, but and it's for you probably as well. But the music is so awesome, and the sound is so incredible that I don't think you get that feeling and that energy from any other ensemble, especially as a brass player, right? I mean, how cool is it to actually play all this stuff with guys who are just, especially the timbre of the instruments. I think that's what really turns me on the most.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of our guests actually introduced me to this world. Svend, who has been here before with Two Button. We had a long talk when he first got here. He's here in Los Angeles, originally from Denmark, doing graduate work at USC. And we started talking about brass bands, and he told me about this whole incredible world. And he was my sort of Sacagawea into that world. And it's growing in this country. It just hasn't quite reached us here in Southern California yet. Svend actually built a band about a year and a half ago, and then a year ago, everything kind of stopped. But It's a fascinating place for people to play. The music is incredible. There's a whole international universe that's available to us. All these pieces, place for people to play. And in addition, the incredible community that is part of the brass band world, the system of mentorship, younger to older. I think there's really a lot to look at. And so Svend agreed to come on with us today. And then our main guest is a giant in the brass band world. He's built arguably the best brass band in the country, built a huge program. He's got over, the number might be wrong, but over 150 people involved, 150 musicians involved in Kansas City, Missouri. And he's done incredible work there. He's gone on to win several national and international championships. So we are so lucky to have both these people here to talk about their different experiences in their own brass band worlds, and maybe to shed some light for us and anyone who's listening.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And I'm glad you brought this up. It's the international thing. I think that's really interesting to me. And I've always been a big fan of this band. And for those of you out there who aren't hip to this, the Corey band in the UK is considered to be way, 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 way up there. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this band has been together for over 100 years, I think. Well over 100 years. And they continue to work all the time. They continue to astound all the time. And in fact, our guest today won one of the competitions that this band sponsors across the world. And I think I can't say enough about these guys. They just totally play their asses off. It's just awesome. And I'd like to everybody get a taste of the Corey band and see what I'm talking about, because wow. I mean, it's truly great brass playing. And I chose this video because of my love of Michael G's music and the fact that I thought it would be kind of fun to hear this. So here's a little bit of the Corey band right now. So, hey, we got him in the house, don't we, Doug?
There he is, the man.
There he is. I'd like to say hello and thank you for coming, Mr. Joe Parisi. And also, Svend, great to see you again, man. I'm really happy you guys showed up today.
Great to be here.
You know, the band sounds wonderful, Joe. We were talking off camera about this, and that particular video was like 10 or 11 years ago. And holy crap, man. I mean, and the band's still going strong, right?
Yeah, we were 8 years old in that video. We've matured a bit since then. That was 2010.
Wow, man. Just
2012. That's right. 2012 would have been our 10th anniversary. So yeah, we're at about 10 years.
So, Doug, take it away, man. I mean, you're the guy today.
Well, thank you so much for coming. It's just a great honor for us to be here. I have so many questions, but the band sounds great. How did you get started with brass bands? Did you have an interest, or did they find you?
That's a great question because they found me. As an undergraduate in upstate New York, a friend of mine had student taught in England, said, hey, you need to go do this. And when you get over there, you need to go play in a brass band. So I was, back then, the school was Birmingham Polytechnic, which is now the Birmingham Conservatory. Long story short, I show up. There's a gentleman you all in the brass world may recognize names, whether you play their mouthpieces or his mutes, but he was conducting a brass band in Birmingham at the Polytechnic. His name was Dennis Wick. And so here comes this American, and they're like, put him on Repiano. Now, I speak Italian. I never knew that word until I finally looked it up, and it means like filler. So kind of. If you know your Baroque history, you know, from Concerto Grosso and all that, it has bigger context. But there it was. And then, you know, fast forward after that degree of experience in my undergrad, I finished my master's down in the South at Florida State and ended up teaching in a small town in Bainbridge, Georgia. And guess what they had? A brass band. And, you know, okay, he played principal. So then I interviewed for the job at UMKC at the conservatory, and guess what they were starting? And somebody had read my Vita and said, you know, my resume, hey, he knows brass band. So I show up with my Bundy cornet, you know, because that's all I had. And I sat last chair third, and they go, no, you're sitting up here, principal. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, you know, the music we read that time was nothing like I had played. Even in England, we played like some Malcolm Arnold stuff. But then they pulled out this thing called harmony music. And it was like somebody put on a 33 LP and just put it on the highest speed possible. I'm like, how can you play this? Anyway, yeah. So it found me, and then I became a conductor of that group in 2006, 2007. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
There was just one band way back then.
When Fountain City, there was one band, correct.
Okay. So, and that's 29 people, right?
Yeah. Give or take. Sometimes you'll add add a trombone, add a bass, add a tenor horn, add a cornet. But yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's about the standard size of a group. Yeah.
Did you know the literature at all? Did you know which pieces you wanted to do, or was that a crash course in brass band education?
A little bit of both. Having the brass band was kind of the brainchild of Lee Harrelson, one of our doctoral students at the conservatory. So he had heard one and had never heard one, kind of like what I think you mentioned at the top of the hour where we were talking off camera, where Svend introduced you into this thing, and you're like, what? What does this mean? This is amazing. And especially, you know, coming from public education where sometimes, and sorry, I'll go down this road, a tuba player can sit there and play whole notes and half notes for their entire secondary school career. Whereas you hear the level of what these groups are doing and you're just blown away. So Lee made that a brainchild of his doctoral work, which I was on that committee, obviously. And then we just worked together, listening and learning together. You know, he had so many recordings and you just start to absorb those.
Fantastic. So, I'm really curious what brass band takes its own. You know, everyone's playing cornets, plus you have tenor horns, so everything is basically conical except for the trombones. Did all your players have to go out and buy instruments, or did they have?
Well, and this is interesting because I know our Svend will hopefully authenticate this and confirm. But when I worked with Sven at CCM years ago, it was a kind of variety of horns, baritones, euphoniums, trombones, B flat tubas, F tubas. It didn't matter. So the reason I'm saying that is because I want people to understand that the music is worthy. And not that I sound like I'm building Field of Dreams. The music is worthy. The instruments will come. When we started, we had trumpets, cornets, people with Dennis Wick mouthpieces, people with Bach mouthpieces, French horns, tenor horn with horn adapters, no B flat tubas like the true B flat tubas that we wanted, and E flat. And it was a potpourri. The only thing that stayed the same was percussion and trombone, right? Because, as we know, trombones haven't evolved much, and percussion, they just whatever they need to hit. So, sorry, trombones. I don't mean that. Sorry, just a joke.
Yes, you do.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, you're not, because it's well said.
I'm sorry. Okay. The only reason I use this position is to speak Italian, right?
Well, yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. So
sorry.
So trombone is actually really an Italian instrument.
It is. They had to go, hey, I got to play this thing like it is.
Yeah.
All right,
well,
sorry.
It was all Romans, right, man?
Yes. Yes.
That was the original thing, because they were made out of copper and all that kind of shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
We got to play the second butt. Yeah, it's a nice... I'm sorry. In all sincerity, my big point there is it doesn't matter. We were kind of a potpourri of an ensemble with a vision by one human being and a few. There was an original board of directors, and some of those founding members are still in that group, and we just went at it. Probably haphazardly, but that's okay, because you're so impressed by the music you get to play that you just go at it. You're like, man, I've never faced a challenge like this. And it doesn't matter if you're playing third cornet or second horn, or it doesn't matter at all. The challenges inherent with brass band playing, whether it's lyrical or technical, really take you to the extremes of your instrument and musicality.
Okay. And is it, Sven, we talked about this a little bit. Is it a different style of playing? There's orchestral playing, brass quintet, brass ensemble, and then you sit down in a brass band. Is that a whole different mindset?
Good brass playing is good brass playing, right? That's kind of what I think of it as. But yes, it is very, very intense, I would say. There's you get challenged on every single part you sit down on. No matter what part you're sitting down, something's going to challenge you. If it's low range, high range, quick notes, slow notes, as you're saying, flugelhorn, lyric solos, E flat cornet, just high notes. It's good brass playing is good brass playing, and brass band is good at capitalizing on specific people's strengths. So if you help people develop their strengths they might not have before. Like quintet is very individual. Every person has to really take care of their part. Brass band is the same, because you have the accountability of the person sitting next to you. Every part is doubled for cornets anyways. So if you have to match that person next to you, they have to match you, and you have to really know your part for that. There's no hiding, and so yeah. I would just say good brass playing is good brass playing.
Yeah, Sven, I think you nailed it, because I got to do this in the early 80s when I was at the University of Illinois with Jim Curnow.
Nice.
And luckily at that time, the university had all the horns.
Yeah.
The only thing that was different was they have the Sousa Museum there, and I found an old E flat that I restored, and that's what I played. Mm-hmm. But all the guys playing tuba were playing C. Right. But those rehearsals, everybody showed up to play.
Yes.
And I think that's the one thing that I love about brass band music, is that you got to show up to play, man. It's just not playing just another gig. You're showing up, and you got to bring everything that you got to the gig. And that's what I dig about it is that level of not only just brass playing, but professionalism that needs to be exhibited.
Yeah.
At these things, even in rehearsal, because the last thing you do is you want the front row turning around going, really?
Everybody's there because they want to. I have very, very few people, aside from the conductors, get paid to be there. Most of the time.
We do?
Do we? I don't know. Sometimes we do stuff.
I've never been paid with Fountain City, by the way. Just want you to know.
Are you serious?
That's why it's so fantastic. Yeah.
We all made an agreement that we believe that energy would take away from what we're doing. So what you said, showing up ready, and you feel like you have everybody on your shoulders, no matter who you are, because people are giving up time.
Right.
We've given up Super Bowl Sundays. We've rehearsed on Easter. It was a commitment that everybody was in. You were either in or you were not. And conductor, player. I was a principal cornet with the group. So moving from that to conductor, it was just like, all right, he's going to conduct.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. That's people often also pay to be there. Community ensembles in Europe and where I'm from.
We've paid. Yeah.
People pay to be there.
Yep.
For the travel, for the percussion,
Yep.
for clothing, for music, for there's all these expenses that most grants don't really look at brass bands very often. So we have to pay ourselves. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Extra motivation.
That's the big country, Joe. That's truly the big country, man. To give up your time, and not only to give it up, but to use your time with something that's absolutely near and dear to your heart. And that's a beautiful thing, man.
Well, I'll tell you what it did. It made me grow immensely in every aspect of what I've done as a teacher at university with the wind ensemble. Everything I credit to who I am today is from that gift of what we all gave up. We gave it up to earn it back. And it's really something, not to go down that whole the psychology of it, but when you are doing that, instead of waiting for a paycheck, you're waiting for this.
Yeah.
Right here. These people and that heartbeat and that moment that you can't define with money. So, yeah, it's totally remarkable.
Cool. Yeah. Totally cool.
Oh, how did you find all those good players?
Okay, so just to preface this, you're seeing end products, right? But those first years were very difficult to keep a consistent base of people. We had trouble filling seats. We had trouble keeping consistency. And of course, with success, now you're looking at it now 20 plus years later, people are wanting to play and the bench has gotten deeper. But I will say that the university, being in where we are in Kansas City, right? You have great universities around us. I am at UMKC Conservatory, and then you have KU, and you have some other universities around, and people were driving 2 hours to get to rehearsal to be part of the group. Whereas I would say in the video you showed at the beginning, I would say half that group were UMKC at some point alum or current students. So Lee reached out to them, and you ask people that will come showing up doing their best and will invest in it. So it grew from that. But I got to tell you, at the very beginning was just trying to convince people, come on, what's brass band? Come on, I promise you'll enjoy it. So it took some building. It really, really did. So I wish it were that easy. Now it's become a little bit more, we've got a deeper bench now.
Sure. But at some point you said, okay, we're going to go complete. We're going to get on an airplane and fly across the ocean, and we're going to compete against the biggest names in the brass band world. And what a leap of faith. Did you have any idea that you were going to prevail?
Well, we had gone. The group was, just to give a background to people listening. So the group was founded in 2002. I believe their first competition was in 2004. I wasn't with them then. So they were going 4, 5. I played with them for a year, and then life happened. A first college gig happened. Second child happened. So I needed to step away. So they competed for a couple years, finishing second and getting some admirable soloist awards and section awards. I took over in 2007. And then we started to have a string of success. I believe we went over to Europe, and if I can remember this correctly, I think it was in 2007 where we went and competed in the All England and did what was one thing called Whit Friday, which is a brilliant, go to city and march through a town, play marches, get graded. we actually ended up doing better the more we did it, and we ended up in 4th place in one town. I can't even explain what Whit Friday is. That's a whole nother podcast to itself.
Yeah.
But
you have to experience to know what it is.
it was one of the most remarkable things I think we've ever experienced. In just a quick overview, you drive on a bus with all your colleagues, go from town to town, and you march through the village with one tune. We played National Emblem, how beautiful. And then you go to the center of a town square where there are people everywhere and judges either hiding in a camper or up in a window, listening to over 40, 50 bands a day and then ranking them in each town. And this is how some of the big bands go around and make their money. They go around and go, boom, 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 boom. We're going to go this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and make a purse of money to help fund our year. So, no, we didn't know when we went over to the other. You might be referring to 2009 when we did the Scottish Open, right? That was an 18-day tour, and I believe it was during the time of swine flu, and I believe the band had it by the end. We were all just shot, but it was the camaraderie and the nucleus built in an 18-day tour. You can imagine, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
We also recorded a CD in Morley Hall, which is one of the famous halls that Black Dyke has recorded in. And that was remarkable. And then at the end of the tour, we were going to compete. We started with the brass in concert, then we toured, recorded, and then we ended with the Scottish Open. And so we were debating whether we were going to stay or not because we had to catch the bus to get back on the plane. But we decided to stay, and we did our performance, and people come running out. Oh, mate, that's hard to beat. I'm like, what are you talking about? And, people I didn't know. Oh, that was magnificent. Okay, sure. So we're sitting there, and the judges, believe it or not, one of the judges was Phil Harper, who just conducted Corey, who you just had there. Phil Harper and Frank Renton, who's the voice of brass in concert. So they start talking about, judges always speak about the day, and they keep talking about a band that had just set itself apart from the rest. And we're like, well, wow, we're not even close, So they start going down the results in 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place, and then they keep speaking about this band. We're like, wow, I wonder who that was. And I need to tell you, I was probably the sickest I've ever been in my life. And all of a sudden they announce Fountain City. And I remember Scott Watson, our tuba player, goes up and screams, we won. And I'm like, what? And I just, it's one of those moments that you'll never forget. And just remarkable group of individuals who paid to go on this trip, spent 18 days together in 10 different hotels. One that was even called the Thrasher Inn because it was a little scary. But I mean, that's back to your story of the investment everyone made to do what they did. And it was just remarkable experience for all of us.
It's just awesome. Awesome. Hey, Joe, Doug wrote a question here, and I don't think the audience really knows this. And does the Fountain City Band play matched sets of instruments?
Well, okay, so the answer is no. But if you go down the euphonium baritone lines when we're with the standard corps players, those are mostly Besson. And in the cornet section, you've got a potpourri of instruments, But I will say, we have been able to move closer to a mouthpiece concept that helps create the cornet sound. Now, granted, you're getting in a really difficult area when you start telling what someone needs to play, but I felt that I was able to do that after a few years being in front of them, saying, look, if we're going to really compete, we've got to really work on getting the proper mouthpiece for a cornet, right? So the Dennis Wick mouthpieces. You had a Bach mouthpiece with that really sharp cup. On a cornet, you're defeating the purpose of that conical spirit and nature. Really, when you have a brass band, my opinion, cornets can sizzle and sound like trumpets if they need to. But for me, the most cylindrical sounding instrument in that group needs to be trombones at time.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'm totally right. So the cornet mouthpiece, because I'm lucky enough to, most of the guys I play with play cornet in jazz. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge, fan of Nat Adderley as well. He's one of my heroes.
Oh, sure.
And but there's a specific sound that you're looking for when you're playing that axe that a trumpet mouthpiece won't cut it.
Yeah,
and that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. I stayed in touch with many of the top Richard Marshall and other players over in the UK and asked tons of questions. What do you use? What do you recommend? You know, we started with typical Wix 4s and 2s, and then we let people work within that with Alliance and some other companies that they were using, but say that same principle. You know, there are very few people that can use a trumpet mouthpiece and sound like a cornet, but that's some of their genetics, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, hey, Doug, do you mind? Let's kind of get that whole thing and let the audience hear what that sounds like right now. Here's a really great thing that your band is going to play for us right now. It's called the Sea Lullaby. And I just think this is a beautiful brass playing. It really is. It's just a beautiful thing, and how that conical thing is so cool. So let's throw that up right now, Quinn. Just awesome sound. What a great sound.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful music.
I just wonder, how do you get that burn in the low brass, the mid to low brass, and then the balance, and of course the chords are so in tune. I mean,
well, you know, I think if you look at, thank you for that. I think that's hopefully a result of the fine musicianship we put forth. But when you look at some of the writing of how brass band is put together, especially in the bass part, you've got, you've got that B flat, E flat sonority written at octaves, right? And so you're getting that beautiful whole series of overtones as the way they were meant to be, and if they're, I know how difficult it is to play tuba and actually hear your compadre next to you, because you guys are, but in that hall, that was the perfect piece to play, because it's Kaufman Center for Performing Arts, and it's based off of the LA Hall as well, and same architect. But you always hear in wind band music, listen to the lowest voice, but yet we've also learned to listen to the highest voice, because it's hard sometimes for everyone to hear the lowest voice. So you have to listen across. And what Sven said, what I believe the brass band brings to the front, is that you have brass quintets within each little nucleus. And if you heard that arrangement, you had certain sonorities happening. And just to be able to wear those hats and shape that beautiful chamber music with 30 people around that, right? You're always on. You can't tune out. You can't, and you're always listening. But I do take your comment as a compliment, because it's one of my pet peeves, right? Sonority, richness. And when I took the band over, that's what I was charged with. Like, can you please help us with sound? And Stephen Bulla, who had judged them prior to the time I was with him, said they got everything they need. They've got to work on sound concept. So
So Joe, do you think, and sorry to jump on your question here, Doug, okay, but is that how you build a championship band?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Now, granted, a championship band has to compete by playing what we call test pieces, and that's a whole nother animal, right? That's not just an Eric Whitacre choral piece that sounds great on conical instruments. And so I think the biggest analogy I can give to the people listening, if you're trying to build a championship big band, people got to know the style and listen to it. I'm saying big band, right? You want to play big band music, and you can't do it if you don't listen to it and don't understand it.
Right.
And so the more people were getting invested in Fountain City and realizing what it can be, the more people started listening. We had votes for what test pieces we would do, and we'd ask everyone to listen and vote for which one they thought they wanted to perform. Lee and I would always discuss the pieces, and then we'd kind of help make the decision for what we narrowed it down, which led to that, led to us selecting Dreams for the Scottish Open. It fits the band. And the beauty about test pieces, there are all kinds of test pieces at all various levels, and that feature certain things. And Sven said it really well earlier about, you want to highlight the things you have, the players you have. And, just like any good organization, you're going to consider, my gosh, we got a killer trombone section this year, we should do this, or we shouldn't do that. So you've got to really listen, pay attention, and as more people start to invest in that, it really grows. So I think it's little by little, person by person, getting hooked on the genre.
That's phenomenal, and that's what Svend was trying to do here. But Svend, I think people will be really interested to know, because you grew up in the brass band culture in Denmark, right?
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was it was cool. I mean, that was what I did for fun. I went as far. I went far enough for brass band that I actually dropped out of high school to do it. So this picture actually up right now is the European Youth Brass Band, the Norwegian Youth Brass Band, and Black Dyke Mills Band on the stage in Oslo Hall in 2013, playing Cezanne's Organ Symphony.
God, you're such a kid.
I am actually.
No,
if you
still are.
I still am. I'm right. If you see on the back row, there's a guy with a green shirt sitting there. Anyways, now change the band. Anyways, that's the band. Yeah. So there's a guy. Okay. There we go. There's a guy with a green shirt sitting, and I'm just below him to the left. That's me, the tallest guy in the row, nearly. And I still remember the feeling of that, the feeling of the camaraderie. Everybody had been, investing their time, their free time, they're investing into the friendships, the instruments, the sound, listening to it. Everybody that was there knew brass band, and multiple people in that group of us kids are now professionals out in the world. We have one that just won. I think second trumpet in Rotterdam Symphony, if I'm correct with that. We have one that plays in one of the orchestras in Switzerland, a tuba player. We have Kathleen Gaspos. She was principal cornetist. She's now principal of Grimthor, if I'm correct. I mean, it was insane people all around. We have people in that plays together in Eikanger Musiklag. Anyways, it was fantastic just growing up around music where everybody wanted to be there at all times. Everybody paid to be there. Everybody wanted to be there. Everybody sacrificed their sport, soccer. As Joe said earlier, sacrifice Super Bowl Sunday. We didn't have that. I had birthdays. I had Christmas. I had holidays. Easter is
got a gig. Well,
exactly.
Speaking of that, this picture right here is you here in LA, right? And you're trying to get it going on, right?
Yeah, so this was actually the inaugural brass band for the Colburn Summer Brass Course that Doug and I put together with Daniel Ondarza at Colburn in the summer of 2019. And this band is a I would call it a ringer band, like bringing as many brilliant musicians together as possible just to have this inaugural concert. What you're seeing here right now is something that I was very, very fortunate to be part of. It's stars from the Salvation Army. There's on Dorothy Gates, that is in-house composer for the New York Staff Band. She's sitting there on trombone. Stephen Pavey on euphonium. That's principal euphonium of Canadian Staff Band for many, many years. Tuba player is I don't remember her name. She runs one of the Salvation Army bands here in LA. Kevin Larson is director of Southern California, music director for Salvation Army here in Southern California. Honorable Henry John next to me. He's a fantastic guy, also working with the Salvation. I mean, it's brass band has just brought me around to amazing experiences with music where everybody wanted to be there at all times, and everybody knew the music, had listened to it, they were invested into it. It's like getting to play music with people that's on your page, on the same page as you.
That's just awesome stuff. I mean, I'm getting jazzed. I want to play in a group like this again. So
I'll give you a call.
No, please do. Yeah. As of right now, I'm just playing with myself, and I mean that at home. But Joe, you were talking about test pieces, and Doug and I were going back and forth on this, and these type of pieces are designed to show what the band can do, correct?
Yeah, they typically last from 12 to upwards to 18 minutes. Although some competitions have limits, and that's a whole nother story. But yes, there's nowhere to hide for anyone.
So
and they the reason
why I brought it up, man, is we've got this recording of Nightmare, and this thing is awesome. I mean, talk about some sitting down and playing stuff. Would you consider this to be a test piece? I mean, a competition piece?
This is what we won the Scottish Open with, and actually, to be honest, it was.
Go ahead, man.
Well, I mean, the band has progressed so far since this piece, so it's kind of nice to go back and reflect when we had selected this piece because of the merits of what we had in the group. Like we have strongness. You'll hear the trombone parts; they're not easy. I mean, and Bertrand Morin, who wrote it, is a trombonist, so good for him, right? But yeah, this is a test piece. This is the one that we had won the Scottish Open with, and this is one of the movements.
Okay, because I'm just gonna say, Quinn, throw this up, man. We got to hear this. So that gives everybody a really good idea, I think, about the level of these quote unquote test pieces and these competition pieces where you guys aren't screwing around here, man. I mean, no, I mean, you're not. I mean, like I said, you're showing up to play, and you got to play, man.
Yeah.
And get it done. Um, you know, Doug, I wanted to have you ask Joe about this record that he sent us, this Celtic Impressions thing.
So it's so beautiful. It's one of your 2 CDs that I sent, and it's available on your website, Fountain City Brass Band. And I listened to it quite a bit this week. It's just some of the most beautiful playing, so expressive, beautiful brass sounds, and it spotlights all the soloists in the band. One unique and gifted in their own way. We were going to play a couple of those, right, Joe?
So, but first, let's pull up a picture. Can we pull up a picture of Lee and Helen, please? So, yeah, and there we go. So, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about these 2 people, please?
Oh, yeah, I'll give you the abridged version. So the beauty of brass banding is that it brings people together. So these 2 are now husband and wife, and she was is one of the most renowned baritone players in the world, having played in Black Dyke and go on the list of just the greatest of the greatest. So she came over here on a sabbatical and did an internship, and just helped our program grow and the concept grow. And long story short, they are now married. She's here. She's a teacher at a parochial high school, and so we've done actually a few CDs at this point. I think we've done Celebration, which was our first CD, Over the Rainbow, which was at Morley Hall, a Christmas CD, and then this one, which became part of a system. We had been invited to play in Colorado for a tattoo out there at Longs Peak Scott Fest for years. They flew the whole band out there, and we played out there for years. People were like, will you play this music for us on a CD? Please put a CD out. So we decided in 2016 we should put a CD out and take it with us to this Scott Fest. And people that don't know what a military tattoo can look that up, because I didn't know either until I experienced it. But we were one of the main acts in that group, and then had concert festivals during the entire week. It was a beautiful time. So we did that CD. We brought Adam Goldsmith, who is an engineer from the UK, over to produce it and record it. Actually, to record it and be in the booth while we did takes. He's from World of Brass, which anybody in the Salvation Army or any of the brass band recordings will know that name. And so from August 16th onward, we recorded it in May, and I think around August 2016, we probably did 5 or 6 rounds of back and forth edits with him. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And finally released it in February 2017. And, you mentioned Helen and Lee. They're the backbone to the group's success beyond the youth group. Beyond just the adult group. Like the youth band developed because of Helen. And we now have 150 kids in that program and 4 or 5 different youth bands. And
that's just
she
awesome.
Is a dynamo Pied Piper. The 2 of them. Lee has done over 140 arrangements for brass bands. He is the founder of the group. They've invested their own blood, sweat, money into the group, and none of it would be possible without them. Even these CDs that they've done. So yeah, that's a big kind of encapsulation of their impact on the group. It's beyond what I could say.
Well, I'd really like the audience to hear Helen play right now. Can we pull up Donegal Bay, Quinn?
Mm-hmm.
And here's a little bit of Helen Harrelson for y'all, and this is good stuff. Beautiful sound. Great chart, man. That's a great chart. It truly is. But I don't want to. I want to make sure we give Lee a little bit of love right now too, just to show. And here's a little Old Lang Syne. We're gonna only play about a minute and a half of this, but this so you can check out what Lee does and why I think those two actually got married and lived together. So bring that up, Quinn, will you?
It's perfect.
All right, yeah. So anyway, yeah. Doug's got a question here, and Doug, thanks again for doing the script, man. This has made my life so much easier. But when did you build the brass? You got a brass academy going on, right, man?
Right,
I mean,
right.
that's the
So
thing.
2008, Helen was over on sabbatical, and we used to have brass band expos. That was always in the thought process of when we built Fountain City to do outreach. So we would do a Saturday at a local high school and have band directors have their kids there, and we'd have them around great brass players, and they just happened to be holding a tenor horn or a cornet. And eventually, those expos led to let's start a youth band, and then that started to lead to let's start an academy band. Let's start a college level band. And these different layers started to happen as we started to build a following. And we had a couple of local band directors who really invested in it, almost sent like their entire brass sections to us, because as a result, they all got better. Just what I discussed earlier. Everybody's got to play, and so, I mean, you want better brass players, make them play this music.
Hey, man, with any young player, you put the fire to the feet, and you're probably going to get results, and that's just the way it is.
Yep.
And the other thing, just like when we all were coming up, if the guy next to you plays better than you, kudos to you, right?
Right.
Because I know how it's supposed to sound.
Right.
So I better come up. No,
right.
No, I mean, it's just that's
it's
a beautiful thing, man, and mentorship at its best, in my opinion.
The principal cornet player of the youth band, his feet barely touched the floor in like 7th grade, and he's been there. And now the national MENC national band had 3 of our players in it. Like the all-state bands they're all over the place. It's infectious.
Yeah.
So cool.
And when you've got players like what you just heard, you're motivated because they're in front of you telling you how to play music through passion and love and giving of their time. And these kids see that, and it's infectious.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing that Svend impressed on me from his time in Denmark was the whole community of the brass band, the mentorship of younger to older, and everyone feels that they have a place to go and a reason to be there, and it's a place where humans can thrive. And
yeah, I was a 14-year-old little awkward, teenager, and on principal cornet was a military musician. There was no filter with him. He was like, you gotta play better, man. On principal euphonium was an architect, so suddenly it was also who had kids, young kids. So, but he was still there. He drove an hour and a half each way every Thursday night to be there. We had dentists. It's adults, and then a small group of younger teenagers. We had a great time together, and we're still friends today. Best friend, my best friend back in Denmark is still he was the B flat tuba. He couldn't play anything when he joined the band to begin with. Like he could play a B flat and F, and but suddenly he learned very quickly to play. So he still does it for fun. He's an engineer. He just plays B flat tuba for fun now. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
One thing that I'm sorry, Doug. Go ahead. Go ahead, man.
John, it's yours.
No. One of the things that was fascinating to me, and I'm glad Doug actually brought this up, was vibrato choice, and how in the United States our concept of that is a little bit different than it is in the UK and everywhere else. And if we listen to Helen play her vibrato, I would say yes, there's somebody from the UK playing baritone horn and using that type of vibrato. Lee, on the other hand, kind of dialed it down just a little bit because he's an American. When you guys are doing that type of thing, where's the agreement point?
This is a great question. First of all, I'll preface this. I believe the brass band is one of the greatest chamber chameleons in existence. Okay? So you started with film music, right? From Incredibles. Mm-hmm. And then, the beauty of what brass band can do is change from the American Brass Quintet to the Stockholm Brass Quintet to the Canadian Brass to Mahler 2 to Largo from Dvorak New World English horn solo. And so the awareness of vibrato usage is critical. People used to really downplay or kind of just poo-poo the old historic recordings of brass banding because it was that always on vibrato.
Right.
That has gone from the practice. However, in historical practice or in certain chorales, it can be absolutely remarkable if everybody's doing it. And I've never experienced it until I was in a brass band, and when it happened, it was an amazing experience because of what happens with timbre, color, etc. So the ability to be able to decide and turn on and off, obviously principal players have to make a decision of when and where, and that comes with time of a group being comfortable with that. And the conductor, obviously, we have to be able to say, look, let's add shimmer here. I want melodic vibrato, which I equate to like a fiddle playing and then adding it into the color. I want all on vibrato. So I feel like that's part of the vocabulary we have to develop in a brass band. Right. And that allows for different colors and timbres and textures and really overtone experiences because it really changes it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So glad you commented on that because that's one thing that really strikes me on these recordings.
Yeah.
One thing we always ask our guests, and in fact, the reason we started this show is, what have you been up to since the quarantine? And I'm going to answer the question for you because this didn't slow you down. You've still been winning competitions, even during the pandemic. And you won. The Corey Band had a virtual competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Corey Band had a virtual competition, and they had, I believe, somewhere in the upper 68, 69 bands compete. We were given a mentor, and ours is Phil Harper, who just basically reviewed the program with you. And I mean, they didn't listen. They just reviewed the program and gave suggestions, and he helped us with the last piece. So Lee and I were kind of shooting back and forth. Lee had a love. Lee is a Philadelphia fanatic. The Eagles, I mean, over and over, right? So, And of course, being products of the 80s, we grew up with Rocky Balboa, me even more so being the Italian that I am. So we thought, there was great music from those movies. Yeah. So we decided to do some arrangements. We did the one you won't hear on here, but anybody can go to the YouTube video and see the entire 10-minute. The one that's called Mickey is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, that Lee arranged. And so we put together this 10-minute performance. That was the requirement, a 10-minute performance, and it was judged virtually. They did it by listening to what you presented. We literally put this together in a week. And so myself, Patrick Oliverio, who's done all the videography, Evan Drum, who is the lead trombone player on this and also studied recording engineering for his master's, helped produce some of that, and Lee. It's amazing how proficient everyone's become on Logic and other things. But we kind of modeled the sound of this. If you know the Maynard album this came off of,
yeah,
that's the kind of sound we went for. Not only in the reverb, the dividing of the band. Yeah. So good hats off to everybody for doing this, and it was a lot of fun,
hey, let's get a taste of that right now, man. So sure. Quinn, go ahead and throw that up. Here's the end of this thing. So seriously, yeah, no wonder, right? I mean, that beautiful production on that, man. Hey, I hate to say this, but we kind of run out of time here, man. And I got to thank both Svend and especially Joe Parisi for showing up today on Easter Sunday for us. What an absolute gas of a show today, man. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
And Doug, you got anything else to get us out of here, man?
Thank you. I mean, this is a new world that we have to explore. Thank you, Joe, for sharing and for showing us what you all have been up to in Kansas City. It's just incredible. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolute pleasure. And Svend, thanks again, buddy. Appreciate it. Make sure everybody checks out Two Button Brass, and make sure we all check out Joe Parisi on YouTube and everything else like that. We're going to be back again next week. I think Sunday at 3, right? Again, are we back at Sunday? Sounds great. I want to thank my dear friend and my great co-host, Mr. Doug Tornquist, for getting this show together today. Thanks, man. I mean, A lot of great work here, man. Really appreciate it. And other than that, we've got another tune by the brass band to take us on out. Everybody have a wonderful Easter. And for those of you who weren't able to check us out, make sure it's going to be up on YouTube in a matter of moments. And thanks again for all your time, and happy Easter to everybody. Here's some more Fountain City Brass Band. Everybody have a great day.